Good evening everyone, this is Julian Arcila and today I will talk about the role of the L1 in the CLIL classroom at primary level, a state of the art. Introduction. The term CLIL was introduced by David Mard in the 90s, referring to diverse methodologies that lead to dual focus education in which attention is given to both topic and language of instruction. CLIL-based concern is not the form, but the content. Additionally, it also used as an umbrella term to mention some European models of bilingual education targeting foreign, second or heritage language. Nowadays, it is the most used approach to teach English in Europe, and it is moving fast to Asia and Latin America. However, there have been some issues around its implementation. For instance, how appropriate it is at primary level due to CLIL is usually implemented once learners have already acquired some literacy skills in their mother tongue, as the students don't learn to read or write in a foreign language. Or problems related to fossilization of error and stagnation of the learning process. Additionally, there is little or no information about the role of the L1 in the development of the CLIL lessons, and how beneficial it can be to attain ability literacy in order to face secondary education, or the lack of clear assessment policies in CLIL context at primary level. Research on CLIL took off from 2003 at an international scene, responding to diverse contexts where foreign language competences need to be strengthened. According to Perez-Cañado, there are fields in CLIL research almost untouched, such as linguistical outcomes, longitudinal studies, assessment in language acquisition, as well as in content learning, effects of CLIL on L1 and L2 development, CLIL methodology, and teacher training. Vanegas, 2012. In Colombia, CLIL arrived around 2001, being implemented as teaching a school curriculum through a second language. However, there is no clear research on the development of the methodologies implemented at that time, apart from the fact that there were subjects taught in English. Even though some research has been done on CLIL, Cortis, Leal, Mariño, McDougall, Otalora, Rodriguez, there are still specific gaps in this current situation, and even more in the Colombian context, that need to be filled so the ideal teaching practice can be established. McDougall, 2009. The last research on CLIL was done by Leal 2016, and it was still a small research on test development at content and language for teaching natural science in English as a foreign language that showed the same flaws presented in the European ones. Keeping in mind these flaws, lack of research and untouched topics proposed by Perez-Cañado, there seems to be an urgent need to identify the role of the L1 in the CLIL classroom at primary level. Research on CLIL. Research on CLIL took off from 2003 at an international scene, responding to different contexts where foreign language competences needed to be strengthened. However, some years later, according to Wolf 2007, research on CLIL was still in its infancy. Nowadays, there is a lot of progress in different areas due to different journals that have taken the lead in different parts of the world. Nevertheless, the majority of research is still performed in Europe, which is why CLIL is often called the European branch of bilingualism. CLIL research is focused on different areas, such as the influence of CLIL on learners, learning outcomes, characteristics and competencies of CLIL teachers, code switching, and so forth. However, according to Dalton Poffer 2011, the analysis of research reports show an interest in 4 specific areas: CLIL outcomes in the target language and curricular content, CLIL classroom discourse, good teaching practices, and teaching materials for CLIL classroom. This shows that despite the fact that there are several topics related to CLIL, there is still a preference in specific areas, setting aside some others that also deserve attention, such as the role of the L1, teachers training, or the ones mentioned by Perez-Cañado. Research on CLIL have shown promising results in different areas: positive repercussion of subject matter acquisition in children, the no difference between CLIL and no-CLIL students on the acquisition of the subject content knowledge, the larger academic vocabulary acquired by CLIL students, and the use of more elaborated and complex structure in comparison with no-CLIL learners. All these results show that CLIL probably is the final and ideal approach to teach a foreign language. Yet, there are still gaps to be filled and flaws to overcome in order to confirm the supremacy or not of CLIL. According to Perez-Cañado 2012, there are fields in CLIL research almost untouched, such as linguistical outcomes, longitudinal studies, assessment in language acquisition, as well as in content learning, effects of CLIL on L1 and L2 development, CLIL methodology and teachers training, Vanegas 2012. Additionally, previous research has shown shortcomings and flaws, such as the lack of homogeneity in the samples, the low numbers of variants, such as verbal intelligence, motivation, or social cultural status, taking into account that L1 and content knowledge should be worked on as dependent variables. And finally, the absence of statistical information to show and reinforce CLIL results. For example, the effect of CLIL on the L1 or subject content acquisition should not be based on teachers' appreciation, but on empirical analysis with different types of variables. CLIL in Colombia. According to Rodriguez 2011, CLIL arrived in Colombia around 2001, being implemented as teaching a school curriculum through a second language. However, there is no clear research on the development of the methodologies implemented at that time, apart from the fact that there were subjects taught in English. By 2011, Rodriguez pointed out that there were different kinds of schools implementing bilingual education in Colombia, and he divided them into three groups: international schools, national bilingual schools, and intensive English schools. Moreover, he added that there were big differences in the context between public and private schools, and even among the private ones. Even though Rodriguez tried to explain a general panorama by 2011, there is a lack of information about the number of institutions, methodologies, or even results of the methods. McDougall 2015 carried out research on teachers' attitude, perception, and experience in CLIL with 140 teachers at bilingual institutions in Colombia. Nevertheless, even by 2015, the real number of institutions claiming to work through CLIL policies remained unclear. There have been some research on CLIL in Colombia. However, these present the same flaws and shortcomings as the ones in Europe, with a low number of variants and the absence of statistical information to show and reinforce CLIL results. Code switching is the use of more than one language in a communicative act, and in an educational setting is seen as a language alternation of more than one linguistic code in the classroom by any of its participants. Most of the early studies on code switching were carried out in North America in second language context and bilingual education classroom, with a special focus on two main issues: the quantity of L1 and L2 and their distribution. However, research in the past was heavily influenced by the corresponding approaches and the dominant TESOL theories of the time. A lot of research on the use, implication, and results of code switching in the L2 classroom has been done. Simmons 2001 talks about the purpose of the L1 influence as a foreign language in Thailand. Tian 2012 has worked about the benefits of code switching at a tertiary level in Hong Kong, and there are even studies on the cultural, political, and social implication of code switching, all of them showing more benefits than disadvantages. Macau 2009 argued that giving a direct translation caused no harm in reading activities in short term. Besides, he hypothesized that using the L1 vocabulary equivalent lights up the cognitive load of a task so students can focus on the general meaning of the text. Moreover, it is likely that code switching could be even better than proving just a definition in the target language. Finally, the idea of using more than one language in the EFL classroom has had its shortcomings due to political and pedagogical factors, but it is clear that if we want to consider education bilingual, there should be room for more than one language in the classroom. McDougall 2019. The role of the L1 in the second language classroom has always been a topic of discussion, as for many years it has been believed that teachers should only use the target language, and the use of the mother tongue by the learner has been prohibited, even though it is actually a valuable resource. Less than a decade ago in Colombia, most of the bilingual environments had a monolingual point of view. in which the use of the mother tongue was penalized, as it was thought that it interfered with the acquisition of the L2 and the conception that the only way to become proficient in the L2 was through an extended exposure to the L2. According to CLIL 2007, multilingual competences are a dynamic mental system that emerge when two languages interact in the same mind. From this point of view, we can say that L1 and L2 are two sides of the same coin. COMET 2007 came to the conclusion that transfer across languages are beneficial for second language acquisition, as teachers rely on it so as not delay the acquisition of the subject matter. Mendes and Pavlou in 2012 observed how teachers relied on the L1 to clarify concepts, complex ideas, and notions, but this one was used based on intuition, as there is not a guide to use it, despite the fact that there should be teacher training about it. Lasagavaster 2013 concluded that the L1 can be used to scaffold language and content in CLIL, as long as the learning is maintained most of the time through the L2. But, as in the research by Mendes and Pavlou in Spain, teachers make use of the L1 most of the time empirically. Finally, he concludes that guidelines for the use of the mother tongue are needed, as unguided use can lead to undesired results. Conclusions. There has been a lot of topics related to CLIL in the different parts of the world. However, there are specific topics that need more research, as linguistical outcomes, longitudinal studies, research about assessment, the effects on CLIL on the L1 and L2, and so others. Related to Colombia research, we have had some of them. However, they shared the same shortcomings and flaws that the ones presented in Europe, as the lack of homogeneity, low numbers of variants, such as verbal intelligence, motivation, or sociocultural status. L1 and content knowledge should be worked on as dependent variables. The absence of statistical information to show and reinforce clear results. Code switching, you can be appreciated that it is a very powerful tool. However, it has not been implemented properly, and it is just in the last few years that it has been applied in the bilingual classroom. So Macaro states that the interaction of the L1 and L2 is a natural part of the bilingual interaction. Finally, for the role of the L1, we can see that we need a clear guide to implement, as if we don't use it properly, we can have undesired results. There is an urgent need to research on the use of the L1 in the CLIL classroom, especially at primary level, to identify its real purpose, trying to overcome previous flaws presented in similar research, as the lack of homogeneity or the fact that the L1 or subject content acquisition should not be based on teachers' appreciation, but on empirical analysis with different types of variables, as mentioned by Vanegas 2012. Thank you.